Hello everybody! You're tuning into Menopause, Barbie. That's me. Menopause, your management, your way, now and for the rest of your life. You're getting used to this now, aren't you? So, welcome back. Today's topic is a hot one. We're talking about bioidentical estrogen plus progesterone for menopause. And it seems like everyone's talking about bioidentical hormones these days, so we will too. You know, I think it's important with these videos to realize that I'm going to present to you all the things that people are chatting about out there, because the chatter out there sometimes is on target and sometimes it isn't. And you know what I'm going to do is teach you all the facts so that you can then make sense of the chatter and the reality and everything else that goes on around you. So I just want to be your information source for what the facts are. So let me orient you. In the last tutorial, I presented dietary, herbal, and botanical sources for balancing estrogen and progesterone. And what you learned is that it's very difficult to balance these two hormones using dietary, botanical, and herbal sources. Well, with bioidentical hormones, it's going to be a lot easier. But they can be a lot more difficult to find, and they can be a lot more expensive. And you might even have difficulty finding a doctor who believes in them. Now, you know, I have a problem with doctors who treat you based on what they believe in. I mean, this is menopause management. It's not religion. And it's not about their belief system. It's about yours. A doctor's duty is to help you get what you want. So I don't think it's my job to pass judgment on your preferences. It's my job to honor your preferences or to teach you the facts that you need in order to consider what you need to get what you want. So, well, pardon me for that little digression, but sometimes I just kind of get carried away. Let's get back to the topic at hand. You're not going to find this material as an isolated topic in the book or in the outline notes. It's contained within the set sections that are on each hormone individually. And you're going to find bioidentical estrogen on page 123 to 125 in the book, and bioidentical progesterone on pages 138 to 139 of the book. And you're going to find bioidentical estrogen on pages 27 and 28 of the notes and page 32 of the notes. So they're in separate sections. The estrogen is with the estrogen, the progesterone is with the progesterone, and what I'm doing today is combining them for purposes of this tutorial and speaking to you specifically about bioidentical sources of estrogen and progesterone. Now, if you recall tutorials 23, 32, and 37, you know that you can get bioidentical hormones either from a compounding pharmacy or as a commercial pharmaceutical product. But today we're only talking about the bioidentical hormones that you get from a compounding pharmacy. Okay? So that means that you're still going to go to your medical doctor or your osteopath and get a prescription. And that prescription will designate precisely how much of each hormone you need. Now, how much of each hormone you need may be determined by blood tests, or it might be based on standard formulations. Now, in the last tutorial, we focused on the critical need to balance estrogen and progesterone in order to protect your uterus from uterine cancer. But there was a whole lot of guesswork involved in doing that with dietary and herbal products. Well, that's not the case with bioidentical compounded products. The involvement and oversight of a professional erases all the guesswork for you. And not only that, but with bioidentical compounded products, there are standardized ratios for combining your estrogen and your progesterone. So let's start by briefly reviewing what's different about bioidentical hormones from non-bioidentical hormones. So first we're going to repeat the definition of bioidentical. Bioidentical means identical to the molecules in the human body. The special feature of bioidentical hormones is that they fit better with your own molecules. Do you remember these? Remember my goofy puzzle pieces? Remember they're children's puzzles? And I just make them into props for you. So these are the puzzle pieces, and what you see with this is a human molecule. It represents the molecule in your body, and this is a bioidentical hormone. And what you'll see is that this bioidentical hormone fits perfectly with a human molecule. And here I have a non-bioidentical hormone, and what you see is that it can take the spot, but it's not a perfect fit, and it's a little loose with a little extra space around it. So the fit is not as great. That is what bioidentical hormones are about. It's all about the fit. Now theoretically, a better fit between a molecule and a hormone should produce better results and fewer side effects, but it doesn't always work that way. So let's talk about bioidentical estrogen and bioidentical progesterone. If you recall previously, I explained to you that your body has 3 types of estrogen. It has estrone, estradiol, and estriol. On means 1, di means 2, and tri means 3. You can remember that by remembering on, di, tri, kind of like the Sound of Music, you know, do, re, mi. And since there are 3 types of estrogen in the human body, there are the same 3 types of bioidentical estrogen for managing your menopause. There's estrone, estradiol, and estriol. So when you get a prescription for bioidentical estrogen, it will specify the precise percentage of each of those. Your prescription may mimic the percentages of these 3 hormones that were originally in your body, you know, long ago before menopause hit. You learned in tutorial 32 that the ratio is estrone is 10%, estradiol is 10%, and estriol is 80%. So that's one option. Alternatively, the percentages may reflect a personal specific ratio to best alleviate your symptoms. And you can have the ratios of these estrogens adjusted and altered as needed over time, because you know your needs will change from time to time. And remember from the tutorial specifically on bioidentical estrogen that there were all sorts of options as to the form of your bioidentical estrogen. So, you know, you can get things in pill form, and the bioidentical pharmacy, the compounding pharmacy will make it in a pill form and put it in a bottle and label it for you. You can get skin creams, and these skin creams will be in all kinds of nifty packages. I showed you one that had a single hole for dispensing the cream. I'm trying to get the cream to come out here. There it goes, one hole. This one has 3 holes, so you can imagine this is not going to give you as much as this one. But these little dispensers are kind of cool. Sometimes you can find it in a pump cream dispenser, or if you just want a tube, you can get a tube full of it. One of the unique things about compounding pharmacies is that they often dispense creams in syringes. So you might get a syringe that just has cream in it. Most of the products are going to look similar from one item to the next. You might prefer a skin gel. Here you have a skin gel, and it comes with a little spatula, and you just scoop out the gel and put it on your skin. Or you might end up with, say, a vaginal cream that comes in a vaginal applicator, or even suppositories, which I have here. And these would be suppositories that you put in your vagina. So all these different things, all these different forms are bioidentical estrogens. Okay? So you can have all these things tailor-made essentially. Okay? Each of these products would have a certain percentage of each of your hormones. So now, that does it for estrogen, but what about progesterone? Well, if you recall in tutorial 37, I presented bioidentical progesterone for you. Let's review that a bit. Remember that bioidentical progesterone goes by the designation USP progesterone. And USP stands for United States Pharmacopoeia. And it certifies that it meets the standards set forth by the United States Pharmacopoeial Convention. In other words, it's like the good housekeeping seal of approval, so to speak, for progesterone. So this USP progesterone is what the compounding pharmacy uses to make progesterone products for you. And as you just saw with bioidentical estrogen, the compounding pharmacy can make your progesterone products in various forms. All the same things you saw with estrogen can be done with progesterone. They can give you pills, creams. They can put the creams in a dispenser or in a syringe. They can make it in a vaginal dispenser. They can give you suppositories. So with bioidentical products, realize that you're not going to have a package that is identifiable to you like you would a synthetic pharmaceutical product. With a synthetic pharmaceutical product, it's going to come in the manufacturer's packages and be a recognizable product to you based on product recognition. These things are all going to kind of look alike because they're made in the compounding pharmacy, and so you're not going to be able to identify them based on how they look. Okay? And the dose of progesterone that you get in your products is going to be tailored. It's going to be tailored to do three things. It's going to balance your dose of estrogen. It's going to alleviate your symptoms of menopause, and it's going to protect your uterus against uterine cancer. That's the whole idea, is to make these things in a balanced way so that all your needs are met. So, unlike the situation with herbal and botanical estrogen progesterone, bioidentical estrogen plus progesterone makes some things a whole lot easier for you. Now, because you can specify all these things and say, get X percentage of this and X percentage of that, some people refer to bioidentical hormones as custom compounded hormones or designer hormones. Now, you really have to be careful with those labels though. You know, not all bioidentical hormones are custom or designer. And not all compounded hormones are bioidentical. So I think that labels like custom and designer are kind of misleading, not only for hormones, but for a lot of things in life, right? Now, you learned earlier that compounded bioidentical hormones exist in a regulatory world that kind of hovers between the botanical, herbal world and the pharmaceutical world. So bioidentical hormonal products are more regulated than the botanical and herbal products, but less regulated than the pharmaceutical products. So you have to remember that they kind of exist in a world in between. And now you've learned that it's much easier to determine the origin, the dosage, and the quality of estrogen and progesterone in these bioidentical products than it is in herbal and botanical products. So you've got a little bit of knowledge about how your bioidenticals compare to your herbal botanicals, but how do your bioidentical estrogen and progesterone compare to non-bioidentical synthetic pharmaceutical estrogen plus progesterone products? You see, I love to give you comparisons like this because it helps you see things from various perspectives. You know, there's always going to be trade-offs with everything that you have available to you. And when you can see things from different perspectives, it really helps you narrow things down and figure out what's right for you, right? So let's compare bioidentical estrogen with non-bioidentical synthetic pharmacologic estrogen and let's compare bioidentical progesterone with non-bioidentical synthetic pharmaceutical progesterone. Okay, so let's start with estrogen. It's the easy one of the two. The general bottom line with bioidentical estrogen is that it produces fewer blood clots than non-bioidentical estrogen. It's really kind of that simple. Now with progesterone, it's more complicated. Bioidentical progesterone products produce fewer but different side effects than non-bioidentical progesterone. So for instance, bioidentical progesterone can cause sedation, and non-bioidentical progesterone causes moodiness and drowsiness. But the biggest thing to consider is the different effects that these two forms of progesterone have on various parts of your body with regard to preventing serious diseases. So here's an example. Bioidentical progesterone is better at preventing breast cancer and heart attacks. But bioidentical progesterone is worse at preventing uterine cancer. Ugh. You see, that's the way it's going to be. It really gives you something to think about, doesn't it? You have to decide what's more important to you and take it into account and balance it along with everything else. It may be difficult for you to find a compounding pharmacy that can make bioidentical products for you in general, right? And even if you do have a compounding pharmacy available to you, you might have a difficulty finding a doctor who's comfortable prescribing compounded products. Now, why is that? Well, it's because compounded products aren't always bioidentical, and they aren't always FDA approved, and they aren't as regulated and standardized as pharmaceutical products. So many MDs, physicians, are going to feel like it's not as secure, not as guaranteed, not as good a bet with regard to giving you the results you want. And so they may be reluctant to give you a prescription for bioidentical products. But even if you get beyond all that, your insurance company may not pay for the compounded bioidentical hormones. They may say, we'll pay for pharmaceuticals, but we won't pay for compounded bioidenticals. And so you may find that all in all, the bioidentical products are more expensive than non-bioidentical products. So as great as bioidentical estrogen plus progesterone are, you may discover some hurdles in trying to actually use them. But if bioidentical hormones are your preference, you shouldn't have any difficulty balancing your estrogen with progesterone. Okay, so see, there you have it, all the pros and cons of bioidentical estrogen plus progesterone for managing your menopause. What you've learned is that it's very difficult to quantify the dosages of estrogen and progesterone in herbal and botanical products, and that makes balancing the two to protect your uterus a guessing game. But it's much easier to quantify dosages and balance estrogen and progesterone with bioidentical products. But they aren't as regulated as non-bioidentical synthetic pharmaceutical products, and it may be difficult or expensive to get them. The advantages and disadvantages of bioidenticals compared to pharmaceuticals vary in different parts of your body. And now you're ready to learn even more about the pharmaceutical estrogen plus progesterone products in the next videos. So this is kind of the area in between the herbals and the pharmaceuticals. And so in the next video, we'll be moving on to pharmaceuticals. Don't you think it's phenomenal that all these differences exist? You know, I mean, of course, some of those differences are more important than others. And see, that's why I like to break things down for you, because it all depends on what's most important to you. And it only depends on what's most important to you. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, did you make us a chart, Menopause Barbie? Well, of course I did. You know me, I made you a chart. So here it is, and you're going to find the chart in the descriptive portion of the video and on the website, which is menopausebarbie.me. That's Menopause Barbie, that's me, but not in the book or in the outline notes. Here's the chart, and what you see is a bioidentical estrogen and progesterone and non-bioidentical pharmaceutical estrogen and progesterone in the 2 columns. And then you see in the rows all the different factors that make it a pro or a con for you with regard to these 2 things. So I think that does it for today. I hope you're starting to see how everything has benefits as well as risks. And that's really just life, right? So please feel free to make comments below, and don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and come back and see me in a week. I air a video every Tuesday, so I'll see you then. In the meantime, stay well. Bye!